Hey there, scholarly gamers. It's time for this week's Jungle Drums. Now, you may have noticed we were, of course, absent last week for Jungle Drums. And in fact, when it comes to streaming in general, I have been considerably absent for quite some time. There's a combination of factors there, but the big one being school. The last, amount of time that I can even remember has been dedicated, most of my spare time has really been doing my project here, which, as you can see, has a decent thickness. This is only phase 1 of 3 of my project, I might add, and it's just, as you can see, a whole bunch of techie paper thingabies. Yes, the joys. So that has been taking up most of my free time, to the point where, whilst it'd be so fun to stream and play games and whatnot, I just have not had the time nor the energy to do so. And then last week, with a deadline approaching, it just wasn't feasible to do Jungle Drums, so I had to call it off, and same with Streaming Fundamentals even. But anyway, Phase 1 has been submitted. It's on to Phase 2, which I've got plenty of time during the week at school to take care of. So hopefully in 2018 I'll be back on the wagon, so to speak, and we'll be able to do a bit more gaming, a bit more streaming, and the Jungle Drum schedule and whatnot should not be affected. Right, so this week's news. What is going on? Well, there's a few different things here and there. As per usual, there's plenty of news kicking about, but I just choose a couple of things, a few things that I find of interest. So, the first bit of news, and it seems like we're always talking about this game, and this is because there's always drama surrounding this game. My first article is from PCGamer.com, and it has to do with Destiny 2, yet again. The headline being that Destiny 2 Faction Rally tokens are being throttled in yet another baffling misstep. Right, so, okay. You remember all the stuff that's been going on with Destiny 2, right? With the Curse of Osiris DLC, and how initially it had effectively blocked access to people who didn't own the DLC, blah, 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 blah. So they made some changes, and they put off the Faction Rally, which previously Faction Rally you'd only be able to partake in it if you had the new DLC. Well, they changed that, adjusted that. And so just this week, the first Faction Rally of Season 2 began, and what's going on now is there is a throttle on faction tokens, right? The tokens are the things that you collect for doing different activities, whether it's a public event or going into a lost sector and destroying supplies, or likewise you'll be on a map somewhere and there's like a mini public event, almost like a zone you have to capture, and all sorts of enemies come after you. Well, anyway, these tokens, you collect them, and then you can go see whoever your faction person is, whether you've went with New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, or Future War Cult, and you turn in those tokens to fill up your bar. You get a reward engram, and then those engrams end up decrypting into armor, weapons, cosmetics, and of course the whole kind of purpose of it is the more people that turn in the tokens end up kind of going towards an internal leaderboard of sorts, which will determine which faction actually wins the faction rally. Then of course whichever faction wins, then they give you they reward you with a cool little weapon. I think it only costs 1,000 God, I can't even remember the damn currency. Dust, isn't it? Is it dust? Honestly, see, I'm so out of Destiny 2 now, I'm just not playing it, that I don't even remember some of the most basic things about it. And that's a sad state of affairs, because let's be honest, me and my crew, we really thoroughly enjoyed Destiny 1, and Destiny 2 is just lackluster, to say the least. But so anyway, when it comes to these faction tokens, Bungie has decided to put a very tight limit on the rate at which they can be earned. So basically their statement was that right now, if a player opens more than 2 chests in a 10-minute period, they will not receive additional rewards from Lost Sector chests for 10 minutes. So there's a cooldown. And so as you can imagine, this just spurred a huge reaction on Reddit. And it's just baffling that yet once again, they've been in the news before for throttling aspects. Remember it was the XP thing with them earning bright engrams. And it's just, it's crazy. I mean, they're saying that, look, they've had to do this because people were taking advantage of the way the chests and the faction tokens worked, where players could earn up to 500 tokens per hour. I'm sure those players exist, but I would very much doubt they make up the majority or even a significant percentage of the player base. And there was a Redditor who actually used this, quite a good phrase to describe the situation. We couldn't fix the door, so we demolished the house. So it's just, it's pretty crazy. To add insult to injury, if that's not enough, there's been this huge drama about the actual weapons. Right now, I'll admit I did log into Destiny 2 to have a look, to see what the rewards looked like, and if I'm honest, the armor ornaments look pretty sick. The new Monarchy armor looks really, really good in a Titan. So I have been toying with the idea of logging in to actually do a little bit of grinding, albeit I'll have to do the grinding at a slow rate because the way that they've throttled these things. But one of the big kind of motivations to do faction rallies isn't just armor, of course, but it's weapons. And this is where there's a problem. Players are saying that, look, faction rally weapons aren't dropping. What's going on here? We're getting all our armor and whatnot from these engrams, but we're not getting any of the new weapons. And Bungie clarified that, well, actually, faction rally weapons aren't dropping from engrams, which is, actually, intentional. What they said was that the Curse of Cyrus expansion added 5 new weapons for each faction, but they will be distributed over the course of the season, not the actual rally. And they will not drop from faction engrams at all in this rally. The actual statement says, in the first faction rally of Season 2, the one that's happening this week, there will be a new auto rifle available as the winner's offering. No new faction weapons are available through faction engrams. In the second faction rally of the season, right, so later down the line, a month, maybe even 2 months from now, depending how they rotate it, because obviously you've got to get Iron Banner in there, blah, 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 blah. The winner's offering is updated to a new weapon, right? So there'll be another new weapon will be offered as the winning faction's weapon, but then the previous winner's offering, so the one that's on offer right now once the faction rally is complete, that will be added into the faction engram rewards with an additional weapon. Now that they've explained that it's not that bad, I mean, you can see, okay, I can get that. That's kind of cool, I suppose, that we're not getting any new weapons right now, but hey, at the end of it, we'll be able to purchase, the winning one. Then the next season, well, the next rally, sorry, not next season, the previous winner's thing will be in the cycle with a new weapon. But people were just pissed because they didn't say this off the bat. And there you go, you have all these players dumping their time in, trying to get these new weapons, because if you remember the original post, I'm sure, when they said, look, there's 5 new weapons per faction being introduced, people just assumed, wow, awesome, there's going to be all these new weapons that we'll be able to get. And unfortunately, it has not happened. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. The final faction rally of the season will follow this functionality. The winner's offering will be updated to a final weapon that has yet to be featured. The previous winner's offerings will all be added to the faction engram rewards alongside an additional weapon. This brings the total to 4 weapons within the faction engram and a final winner's offering for factions to compete for over the course of the event. So, Bungie. It's just, yeah, amazing. Just yesterday there was a another update to this story, because on the Bungie's blog, they've actually came up and made a statement. So this was actually from GameSpot, and it says, Destiny 2 admits to confusing players. This was on us. Bungie has basically admitted that it's failed to communicate the reality of how Season 2 weapons would be added to the game. So they've put up a blog post on the website, to give them a little bit of credit. They are taking the time to address the feedback of the community. That they seem to be doing that a little bit better now. And they acknowledge basically, look, there was a bug in previous faction rallies that allowed players to earn tokens faster than they should have been able to. And so they're going to change things up yet again, because now they've admitted that their solution is too disruptive. We have heard player feedback that this solution was too disruptive. We're looking at a change that won't make players feel forced to run to and from a single chest for hours, while also not placing a hard stop on enjoying lost sectors. We want to ensure that every time you open a chest, there is loot inside. And it said that basically to the weapons, look, hey, it was not made clear beforehand that the new Season 2 weapons would be added throughout the events of the season, rather than all at once in the beginning. This was on us. No excuses. We will be remedying this lapse in communication next week with details on what you should expect when the next Iron Banner rolls out in Season 2. Yeah, so Iron Banner is supposed to be coming on January 30th. That is also when we're going to see the release of Masterwork armor. Remember, Masterwork weapons have been added into the game. You're probably not that bothered about it, because I'm not. I haven't been going and playing. None of us, remember, we've got a whole fire team of, a full raid team of players on tap, where we can go in and do whatever we want, whenever we want. And none of us want to play. So we'll have to see. Especially, I've got a lot of other friends, that I don't get to play Destiny 2 with that often, but looking on Twitter, looking on Reddit, and everyone's kind of in the same boat. There's just a lot of disillusion when it comes to Destiny 2. But we'll see. Maybe they can try to bring it back to life. Well, enough of Destiny 2. Doesn't it feel like almost every episode or every other episode, Destiny 2 somehow comes up? And it's not by choice. It's just they keep giving us fuel to talk about. Right, so let's go on to a little bit of Xbox news. Or not, is it news? Nah, I'd say it's more kind of a rumor. Now, if you out there have a Xbox Elite controller, like I do, yes, I know it's got an orange thing. That's the rechargeable battery that I use. If you've ever used an Elite controller, you will know that it's very difficult to go back to using a normal controller. I had recently, had to purchase a new one, because, they're great controllers, but at the same time they're poorly engineered, poorly designed. You get a lot of issues, like the thumbsticks will end up getting a bit of they'll get a bit loose. The bumpers, most of this is made out of metal. It's a heavy, chunky piece of hardware, aside from things like the faceplate, which are obviously plastic. And, the triggers and stuff are nice and heavy duty. But then the bumpers, the way they've designed the bumpers is horrible. I don't have my parts, but I could show you if I had it disassembled. It's just, the bumper is LB and RB. They're connected via these little, tiny little strip of plastic. So after extended use, extended pushing of the buttons, eventually it breaks and it cracks. So that's what happened to mine. Once, which I turned back in, submitted, under warranty, got fixed. Then it happened again, so I took matters into my own hands, disassembled it, put in a new piece. And then the controller started having even more issues, eventually to the point where the paddles, these things on the back, actually died. They have their own little PCB, a little circuit board, and a ribbon cable that then attaches it. But long story short, it was knackered. So I had to buy a new one, which I wasn't too happy about, but again, it's very difficult to go back to using a normal one. The benefit is, I suppose, down here I've got another Elite just without the paddle, so I use this for my PC actually. As you can see, it's actually got chromed bumpers and triggers just to be a bit flashy. But anyway, I saw this bit of news here and I was actually a bit pissed off because I have been screaming, and my friends as well, about how Microsoft needs to make a new Elite controller. If you remember, the Xbox One had the Gen 1 controllers, which were a bit naff, whereas the Xbox One S and of course Scorpio have this new generation. We'll call them Gen 2s, right? Gen 2s have built-in Bluetooth, the build quality just feels better, blah 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 blah. The Elite controller was in between. The Elite controller was a 1.5. Not quite as, it didn't have the same engineering as the Gen 2, but it was better than the Gen 1 controllers. And we've been going on about it for ages, that, they need to re-release an Elite based off Gen 2, or even, something newer, something better, because all you have to do is look online, and people have issues with the Xbox Elite controller. The things break, the thing sticks, you get, controller stick drift and whatnot, dead zones acting up. We've been going on about this for ages. Well, if the internet is to be believed, and this article is from TheVerge.com, a new Xbox Elite controller is revealed in leaked images. So let's just, before we go into this, let's just have a look here. It looks a bit fat, doesn't it? Is it just me, or does it? It could just be the angle of the photo here, but it just looks like the little controller, claw bits here just are a bit shorter, not as long as previous iterations. Because either that or the actual thing's been shrunken, because the D-pad, which is a circle here, looks huge in relation to, the rest of the controller. It's got cool little LED things here, so that looks pretty neat. Looks like better technology on the sticks, possibly. Right, so that's basically it for the photos. Right, so the Elite wireless controller basically was introduced back at E3 in 2015. It is expensive. I think it was about $150, and over here in the UK it usually sat around 150, 120 pounds is where I think it was at. During the Christmas season, I think it went all the way down to under 100. But it's got 4 interchangeable paddles, it's got the hair trigger locks, all the buttons can be remapped, you can adjust the actual curve of the sticks, whether you want immediate response, a slow kind of tapered response. It is great. I mean, honestly, I know it's expensive, but once you've used one, I just, I'll put it this way, Rainbow Six Siege, right? For Siege, I use the paddles to lean, and as soon as my paddles were out of commission, I stopped playing Siege. My mates have been pissed off with me, but I could not play Siege without my Elite paddle. Yes, it's a paddles, it's a crutch, I know, but hey, it's preference. So anyway, all these images were actually posted on a Chinese site called Baidu, and it's basically showing it the second version of the Xbox Elite controller, claiming that it's going to have a USB-C port for charging, Bluetooth support for Windows 10, 3-level hair trigger locks, because this is the thing with the Elite controller at the moment. It's just switches that are either trigger locks or either off. See, so you can go all the way down, or if you put them on, see, now the movement is limited. So the new one allegedly would have a 3-level hair trigger lock. It's going to have longer key travel for the paddles and a 3-way profile switch, whereas right now we can only have 2 profiles. The images also show what appears to be an adjustable tension mechanism for the thumbsticks. We do know that Microsoft had filed a patent back, or a patent, depending how you want, potato, in December, that had an adjustable lock design for the thumbsticks, and the images from this leak match that design perfectly. And then, of course, there's the 3 LEDs that we don't know what they're for. They could indicate battery life, they could be to show which profile's active, we don't know. The new controller has newly designed grip sections, because let's be honest, the existing controller does have issues with these bits right here. Obviously this is the new controller, so that has no issues yet. But the old Elite, these are actually replacement parts that I put on. Because sure enough, what happens is, if you're getting hot and sweaty, or a lot of playtime, and even just like going around, these things wear down to the point where the adhesive that holds them to the plastic actually comes off, and it looks horrible. And what ends up happening, like on the side here, it's sticking out so much that you end up constantly hitting it, and it's just, oh, it's horrible. I know several people have had that issue. You can just, for a few dollars, few pounds, get replacements, whether, well, third-party ones. I think the official ones are a little bit more expensive, and it doesn't take a bunch of technical knowledge. As long as you've got, something that's plastic and that can pry, you can get these beautiful little kits that are, for cell phones and stuff that'll do the job. And these just pry out, come off, new ones plop right on. So allegedly the new controller has a different design for that, which will hopefully alleviate those issues. But supposedly these images are genuine. It's not clear when exactly Microsoft plans to introduce this new controller. They're testing the controller design alongside a new case that will charge it on the go. Now that is something that does interest me. If you're not, again, I keep bending down here, sorry. The Elite controller came with this nifty little travel case, right? Where basically it holds your controller, and there's, I know it's difficult to see here, but yeah, see all the little different paddles and stuff get held in here. You've got a handy little thing in there for stuff, but the controller sits in, and that was your travel case. So the concept of them making a case that will charge it on the go, that sounds really, really cool. So yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Am I salty that I've just bought one of the old crappy Elite controllers and there's possibly a new one coming out? Yes and no. I needed it. I've got to play Siege with the boys, so hey, c'est la vie, so they say. Right, speaking of games, if you're into esports, I'll be honest, I'm not really huge into esports. I do watch the Rainbow Six Siege Pro League quite a bit, because it's a game that I love. I got a bit burnt out on it, if I'm honest, but I took a bit of a break. I look forward to going back to it because it's great fun with my buddies. But I love watching the Pro League because the level of those players is astounding. These guys are just, it's ridiculous. And I think, if there's a game that you really enjoy and there is a league available, I do highly recommend watching it because you'll become a better player, honestly, just by seeing what some of the top-rated players can do. Yes, to be realistic, I will never be as good as the Pro League guys in Siege because they're younger, they're faster, they're machines. I'm just a casual. But one of the big leagues that had just launched was Overwatch. So again, from PC Gamer, the Overwatch League attracted 10 million viewers in the first week, averaging about 280k viewers per minute. Day one alone drew an average audience of about 500,000 viewers per minute. Because it's quite interesting, before the Overwatch competitive scene came out, people weren't convinced. Which I don't understand why they weren't convinced, because Overwatch for ages was one of the top streamed games, one of the top viewed games. There's a great UK-based streamer called Valkia. You should check him out sometime on Twitch. He used to work at Overclockers UK, then he went streaming full-time, and he's a fully partnered streamer, and he plays ranked Overwatch all the time. I'm sure last year he was invited to the, what was it? It was the Overwatch Invitational, I believe, right? Anyway, he does a lot of great videos and whatever, really awesome player, and just overall nice guy. But the Overwatch League, is just, it kicked ass. More than 10 million people had tuned in over 7 days to watch the Dallas Fuel versus Seoul Dynasty matchup, and it's been crazy. Just looking at all these stats here, yeah, 408,000 viewers per minute was recorded on day one. The full week's average was 280,000 per minute. Now, these figures don't account for multiple Overwatchers tuning in via the same browser and or device. And the tickets for those watching from the Los Angeles Blizzard Arena in person sold out throughout the full 7 days. Yeah, so pretty cool. Season 1 of the Overwatch League, of course, runs now all the way through June, with playoffs and finals scheduled for July. So definitely, go check out if that's your thing. I honestly haven't watched any of it. I do have Overwatch, I play it occasionally, but I'm gonna have to tune in sometime and see what this league is looking like, because it sounds pretty fantastic. If that many folk are tuning in, it's got to be a good bit of fun. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Right, let's talk a little bit about cryptocurrency. I get a lot of questions about cryptocurrency, to be honest, at school from buddies, even within Scholarly Gamers. A couple of people have been interested, and cryptocurrency it's a funny one. You can try to make your own, right, through hashing, blockchain, which requires hardware. If you're just going to use like your current computer to attempt to mine Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other of the cryptocurrencies, you're going to be in for a bit of a surprise. It's not that easy. You need a lot of hardware. And when I say hardware, the best bang for your buck is video cards. We're talking, like I just saw a video the other day. There's this wonderful guy, great tech YouTube channel based out of Australia, I think. I don't think he's from New Zealand. I don't want to offend him. And he did an experiment where he set up, he made a mining rig. And it was about $6,000 for him to invest in this thing, right? And it had, about 10 NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti's in the setup, right? I think it was 10, or maybe it was 8. I think it was 8, yeah, because there was 2 motherboards. 8 of these cards or something hooked up just to mine. And, you need all the specialist software, this, that, and this. And in 6 months, sure enough, he made tens of thousands of US dollars. But now it's ramped up a bit, and it's not that easy. So if you want to get into mining, you're going to need a lot of hardware. And again, you have to offset, the cost of investment plus your running costs, because, you're talking about keeping these things running 24/7. It's generating heat, it's using electricity, blah, 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 blah. So what's became quite popular is people not mining, but instead purchasing, Bitcoin or whatever other cryptocurrency, watching the market and then selling to make a profit. I mean, we've all seen the headlines where cryptocurrency has just been crazy, skyrocketing. People have become multi-millionaires just because they invested. Well, the latest news, and I've sourced this from CNBC, is that Bitcoin sinks below $10,000 and is now 50% off all-time high as the cryptocurrency sell-off deepens. I'm sure if I look right now, it's going to be even lower. But basically, when this article was published on Wednesday, because of course I do all these things in advance, more than 30 billion US dollars was shaved off Bitcoin's market value in 24 hours. $30 billion just poofed like that. Now, this is the first time that Bitcoin has fell below $10,000 since November. And this week, just every day, there's a huge sell-off occurring. There's a lot of different reasons for this. One of the biggest ones is South Korea. Now, South Korea is a country I love. I lived there for a good, five years. And South Korea is one of the largest producers of cryptocurrency. Now, this is because South Korea is a very technologically advanced country, right? I mean, to put this in a perspective, over here in the UK, it's not really been that long that we've got contactless payment, right? I mean, it's been a couple of years, but things like that, right? We've been able to get on the metro, the subway down in London, and instead of like using money buying a ticket, you just swipe your phone to get in, right? That just got put in a few years ago, whereas almost 20 years ago, that was happening in Korea. Same things like chip and pins, like people getting their debit cards, credit cards, which were however long ago in Europe and the West, in South Korea, they've been around for ages. But so anyway, when it comes to cryptocurrency, they have huge mining farms over in South Korea. Because again, technology is relatively inexpensive. They produce, you've got things like Samsung and whatever, all these companies that produce memory, so they can get raw components fairly cheaply. So they've got these huge mining server farms, and they have been generating a hell of a lot of the cryptocurrency on the world market. Well, what is happening in South Korea is the government is looking at getting involved. That they're basically looking at regulating. South Korea's finance minister, Kim Dong-yong, said that the country was mulling over the shutdown of crypto exchanges, right? So South Korea, which is one of the biggest cryptocurrency markets in the world, is moving to clamp down on virtual currency. And by making that announcement, people panic sold. Like, holy crap, because if they basically, if they shut down crypto exchanges, you would end up seeing all of this, the possibility of these digital assets just, being worthless or useless. Or likewise, this a server farm could have all that currency, but wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So it would be effectively removed from the market, and then it just, it's crazy. China is also considering the same thing. Even France and the US, there's been, little kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the possibility that the US is going to try to regulate cryptocurrency, because it does make people nervous that there's all of this money, this huge sector that's just billions and billions of US dollars that isn't being taxed, isn't being regulated, and that makes people nervous. It makes them nervous, but it also makes them jealous because they want to be able to tap in to tax it and get some of that money. But it's quite interesting. South Korean and Japanese investors often pay a premium of 20% or more per Bitcoin. But on Wednesday, that was all just falling down. The premiums that were being paid, were coming down. They kept falling. China is most certainly looking to deepen its crackdown on cryptocurrency. China was actually planning to block domestic access to the cryptocurrency platforms, right? If you know anything about China, you know how a lot of times they can limit and censor access to different, websites. Hence why their social media over there, I believe, is a government-approved platform. Is it not? Is it? I'm pretty sure it is. And so the way cryptocurrency works is, your local machine, is doing the mining and the hashing, but it needs that internet connection. It needs to connect to the exchange, to trade and whatnot. And so if China blocked access, again, you'd have these server farms that would be ineffective. Now, it might be possible to tunnel through that internet security, but I have a feeling with China, the way that they implement things, it's just, there's no way to bypass these things. But yeah, it's just a nice reminder that Bitcoin and, cryptocurrencies in general are an extremely volatile asset, right? It sounds great. You see all these people have made all this money, and unfortunately, if you've been on the fence for a long time, unsure whether you should invest or not, I think that ship has sailed, because now we're on the other end of it, where value's coming down, governments are looking at intervening, and you know, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a bit more tame. You're not going to see as much growth. So, you know, it's unfortunate. You know, there's a lot of us out there that are looking back on cryptocurrency with a bit of regret, saying, oh, you know, if I had invested even a small amount of money, you know, if you'd put in $100 worth, you know, a couple of years ago, and it then cashed out at the peak, you would have made a crap load of money. And it's not just Bitcoin. There's other ones. Zcash, with Zcash changed to what was it, Zcoin or something. You know, but there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that, you know, come along, and if you can jump on a fresh one, a startup one that's really, really inexpensive, yeah, go for it, right? You know, spend however much, you know, don't go crazy, but you could spend a fair bit of money, invest in that coin, and then sell it later down the road before it, you know, bottoms out. There's so many options. But yeah, I just thought that was quite interesting, and it could be a sign of the end for cryptocurrency, or at least maybe not the end, but a significant change in how cryptocurrency is going to work in the future. Right, let's talk about YouTube, shall we? There's been a lot of changes going on with YouTube. Now, we know there's been a lot of drama with YouTube. I'm not even going to go into that. If you know anything about YouTube, you've seen all the stuff, the Suicide Forest, all that kind of crap, and then even before that, the, you know, racism and everything. But anyway, being a YouTube partner it's been an interesting process, because years ago it was extremely difficult to become a YouTube partner. Then they took it to a point where it wasn't that difficult, right? So more people were getting YouTube, becoming members of the YouTube partner program, myself included. I benefited from that kind of, you know, lowered requirements. Well, just last year, you know, they had, it was in April of last year, they had set up a new eligibility requirement of 10,000 lifetime views for the channel, which is fair enough. You know, that was the, I'm sure whenever they had done, was it when they'd done that was fine? No, I was a partner before that. Yeah, but I remember when the changes were coming in, I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm well above that's okay. But the latest announcement, and this is taken directly from the YouTube creator blog, is to do with these additional changes. So what they have done, and when this was posted on Tuesday, January 16th, they have said that, you know, basically, look, when we set that new requirement back at 10,000 lifetime views, you know, that gave them more information to determine whether a channel followed the community guidelines and policies. They're now saying that it's been clear over the last few months that we need a higher standard. So starting today, which was Tuesday, we're changing the eligibility requirement for monetization to 4,000 hours of watch time within the last 12 months and 1,000 subscribers. Right, okay, so that's cool, I guess. I mean, you know, there's a lot of small channels out there that are like, oh man, that sucks. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm one of them. It was like, oh, well, that, you know, I was quite proud to be a partner and have all those extra tools and monetization. But, you know, when I read this, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that sucks for new people, but it's fine for me, right? You know, it's cool. I'm a partner. They can't take that away from me. On February 20th this year, we'll also implement this threshold across existing channels on the platform to allow for a 30-day grace period. On that date, channels with fewer than 1,000 subs or 4,000 watch hours, remember, you need to hit both of those. You could have 1,000 subs, but if you don't have the watch hours, then you're out. Likewise, you could have thousands of watch hours, but if you've got under 1,000 subs, you know, this is no good. So on that date, February 20th, channels with fewer than 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours will no longer be able to earn money on YouTube. When they reach 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours, they will be automatically reevaluated under strict criteria to ensure they comply with our policies. New channels will need to apply, and their application will be evaluated when they hit these milestones. Though these changes will affect a significant number of channels, 99% of those affected were making less than $100 per year, with 90% earning less than $2.50 in the last month. So, okay, any of the channels who no longer meet the threshold will be paid what they've already been earned in their AdSense account. So that's kind of cool. It's, the blog goes on and on and on, and yes, there's a huge outcry out right now saying, oh, the smaller channels, oh, they're killing us, this, and this. And initially, I think I did have that bit of knee-jerk reaction, but then I looked at it, the money added up, and okay, it's not the end of the world. I think what's irritating is that they're taking away monetization, but they're not taking away ads. Like, when this change occurs and I lose partnership, I haven't found if it means I lose my custom URL yet. That's something I'm interested to see, because if they do that as well, that kind of really sucks. But anyway, is that taking away monetization is one thing, but they're actually still going to be playing ads. Ads will still display on your content, depending on the length of it. But, the money's just going straight to YouTube. I think that's a bit that a lot of people are irritated about, but I don't think they're conveying their irritation that well. It seems like most people are just bitching like, oh no, they're taking away my money. Well, yes, that's true, but let's be honest, if you're only averaging, a couple of dollars a month, the impact isn't that huge. I know it's nice to have a little bit of a goal there and a little bit of incentive of, oh look, my channel's actually making money. It's not enough to do anything with, but at least it's making money, because then at least you're seeing progress, and as you look at your graphs and all your summaries and you see it growing, it does give you a sense of accomplishment. But I think the accomplishment, they're changing the goalposts, but at the same time, you shouldn't be focused on money, should you? If you really enjoy creating, you need to be focusing on your content. You need to be focusing on trying to get subs, getting people to watch your content. These are all things that will progressively, naturally happen if you're creating content and creating content regularly. Because I'm a prime example, I don't create content regularly. It comes back to the school stuff. If you're creating content regularly, that's quality content, you are going to grow. And that's when I look at my growth, it is actually in line with the amount of content I've put out. If you're doing a video a day that's at least 10 minutes long every single day of the week, yeah, you're going to experience growth because it's getting out there, It's like streaming, right? If you only stream once a week and wonder why your channel isn't growing, then it goes without saying why it doesn't. Or likewise, if you're streaming every day, but only streaming for an hour, you're not getting in front of enough people. It's a change that sucks for a lot of us, yes, I can admit that. But at the same time, it's making you focus inward to yourself and your content and the quality of the content that you're producing. I could start a big spiel about the affiliate program and how the affiliate program on Twitch has actually made people start to measure their success in a different way, rather than now focusing on growing their community. Now that it's monetized, and they're gauging their success and how many subscribers they have, which, partnered streamers, I've always told you, that was never a level, that was never, a measure stick of your success. That's your money. That's that's a measure of how much money you're making. It's not a measure of actual success. But anyway, it's interesting. There's a lot of theories with these YouTube changes, with people saying, oh, they're punishing smaller creators because of the mistakes of the big ones, because of course these changes don't affect the big YouTube channels. I can see where you're coming from, but I don't think it's necessarily actually that. I think they're looking at, I think they've realized that they went a bit crazy with monetization and that too many channels currently have it. All of these small channels, a lot of them are sometimes just upstarts that had made a bunch of crap or, not that great content. Then their ads are getting, placed on their content, but then they're being flagged, right? So then they're having to do manual reviews. I think there's been a lot of work generated by having a lot of smaller channels, sometimes with questionable content. Again, I'm not sure we'll get all the way to the truth. And some of the huge YouTubers out there have different opinions. PewDiePie's latest video from the other day actually went into quite a bit of detail of his opinions, which was quite good. But then on the flip side, you got folk like Keemstar who just said, guess what, if you're a YouTube small content creator, you know what the answer is? Just quit, which I don't think is necessarily the answer. But anyway, it is a bit of a blow. I think the way it was put was really quite worded well, if I can try to paraphrase, was that, focus on your content. It's never been easy to be successful on YouTube. Just like any platform, Twitch, Mixer, anything, it's not easy. You have to put the work in. And by removing monetization, it's putting the focus back on content creators to actually push themselves and make to grow and do well, which I think is a valid opinion there. Whereas the minute you get monetized, the effort kind of goes away. I mean, we've seen it on live streaming platforms where prior to the affiliate program, right, people would really push to get partner. I mean, they would be, the dedication, the work involved was insane, and they would put in that time and effort, and then they would get partnership. And this is what then separated content creators or live streamers. You would see some who wouldn't bat an eyelid, right? They would just keep going how they were going, right? These are the type of folk, who I'm talking about, those big, quality streamers out there that getting partnership was just, it wasn't a huge deal to them. Don't get me wrong, they appreciated it, obviously, but that was part of their business plan. They knew that was going to happen. That wasn't their focus. Their focus was their content and their community. On the flip side, there's a lot of people out there who, unfortunately, the minute they get their partnership, their effort then goes down. They've hit that milestone, now they're a partner, and they go, okay, now I just need to do what I need to do occasionally, and their content starts to suffer, their community suffers. All of a sudden they're not making the money they thought they were gonna make. It's a bit of a shame. And to some extent we see that with the affiliate program on Twitch. You'll see it yourself. You'll see some streamers who are unaffected. Okay, they get their sub button, they can receive bits, and they're happy about it, they're cool, but it doesn't change the way they do things, right? These are your quality streamers who are more concerned about generating good content, having fun, and their community. But then you get folk, what I'm seeing more and more regularly, having sub goals and whatnot, and you talk to most partners out there, and that was always a bit taboo. You didn't usually discuss how many subscribers you had, and setting up sub goals was never a cool idea because it just made you look like that was what you cared about. I'm not saying not to do it, hey, each channel to their own, but it's just amazing that with the affiliate program coming out, it seems there's a lot of ignoring of previous practices, which partners had, because partners were the only ones with sub buttons. That they just completely seem to ignore what has worked in the past, what best practices were, because, oh no, this is new, this is something different. Yes, it's something different, but it's... Anyway, I've digressed long enough. YouTube partner program has changed. If it affects you, hey, you can either bitch and moan about it and quit, or you could say, well, okay, you know what? So what? I'm not going to be making a couple of dollars a month from it. Let me focus on the content itself and try to grow. That's what I'm going to try to do, I suppose. Right, I'm not sure how I'm doing on time-wise. I did want to talk about the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. that occurred in Vegas just the other week. Last week's Jungle Drums would have been about CES, but unfortunately, I think I don't have much time here. I just want to talk about some of the highlights. And so I'm sourcing this from techadvisor.co.uk. Razer had shown off their Project Linda, which was a, pretty badass laptop, but it actually holds the new Razer phone. The Razer phone docks into it, and so it has some pretty cool features, right? So it slots in to become a trackpad and a second screen. So pretty neat, and it's got a little cutout on the front of the laptop, so you can still use the fingerprint scanner. So if you think of the ramifications of this, your laptop could be completely on lockdown, and the only thing that unlocks it is your phone. So there's all sorts of neat things going on there. Think about it. You just put your phone down, it could automatically log you in. Likewise, the laptop would also charge as a way to would serve as a way to charge your phone, your Razer phone. Quite interesting. I'm actually due for an upgrade in a few months of a phone, and I've been considering getting a Razer. There's two of my classmates who have the Razer phones, and they're enjoying them. They're quite cool. Beside that, there had been some really great monitor technology. Of course, NVIDIA was showing its huge gaming screens, high refresh rates, low response time, 65-inch monitors effectively. Absolutely glorious. Asus had shown off a really cool bit of technology for if you're using a triple monitor setup, and it's this, it looks like plastic. This looks like plastic strips that they go on the seams between, the first and second and the second and third monitor, and they refract the light, so it makes it look, you don't see the bezels of the monitors. That looked like a really cool bit of tech. Big one for VR, of course, was the HTC Vive Pro. The Vive was already the best VR headset on the market, debatable, but the Vive Pro is supposed to be even better. We're talking about a 78% upgrade to the resolution. It's going to have a wireless, you can purchase a wireless adapter for it for cable-free play. It looks like it's going to be awesome. One of my close friends has a Vive, and yeah, he is super hyped about the Vive Pro. What else? Trying to think what else was at CES that really got me interested. Oh yeah, there was a bunch of pretty cool cases and whatnot. Lee has a beautiful, gorgeous machined case. The front of it is quite curved, and you push a button and like the top kind of opens up a little bit. That's where your radiator would be. There's a lot of cool tech at CES. Unfortunately, I wish I could go into more detail. We really should have covered it when it was happening. But again, now that CES is a distant memory, opportunity has been missed. Well, anyway, guys and gals, I think that's going to call it for today's this week's Jungle Drums. Again, sorry it wasn't live streamed. Sorry there was no guests this week. Again, it's just been a crazy schedule, and of course, this damn thing that has been quite a bit of work. And again, that's only part one. I've still got 2 more parts to do, with the next deadlines being over in May. But yes, in the meantime, look, check out our articles at scholarlygamers.com. Check out the other video content. Just this week, the Unbearable Gamer dropped a fresh episode of Armchair Gaming, episode 11, which, funnily enough, is using Destiny 2 as the tool for what he discusses this week. So please go check out that. I always enjoy Armchair Gaming. It's philosophy, which just philosophy in itself is pretty awesome, right? I mean, it can be an abstract concept for so many folk, but it is pretty damn cool. And the way that Bear, just tries to explain it and put it into language that we non-philosophers can understand is excellent. I think he does a really good job of that. So please check him out. And same with all other content, great articles and whatnot. I myself am working on a review at the moment for Flying Tigers Shadow over China. So be on the lookout for that. And then, yes, next week there should be an episode of Streaming Fundamentals coming out. Yeah. Hey, anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the website, which you're probably watching on, well, from it right now. Remember, we also have a Reddit. We have a subreddit. Have a cheeky look for that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to playing some games. I've got to get this review knocked out. And I'll catch you next week.